The Singing Frog and the Swamp Festival. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a lonely frog. Though the frog was never without company, for he had many animal friends who would often gather in the swampy woods near his small pond, the frog remained an outsider, ignored by the other animals. The frog spent much of his time croaking and singing in the pond. As he sang, he imagined he was singing for a large audience. He dreamed of one day becoming a famous singer with a large crowd of adoring fans singing his songs. One day, a fly buzzed into the pond and announced that the first swamp festival would be taking place in the woods the following week. The fly explained that the festival was meant to bring joy and entertainment to the animals of the wood and that any animal could participate in the festivities. The fly also explained that the festival would also include a singing competition and the winner of the competition would be crowned the Swamp King. An animal chosen as the Swamp King would rule over the animals in the woods and be granted one wish that would make his life better. The frog was so excited at the prospect of the swamp festival and competing in the singing competition that he failed to ask the fly one important question: how would he know if he was chosen to compete? The following week, on the day of the festival, the frog hopped out of his pond and made his way to the woods. He was nervous, but excited at the same time. When he finally arrived in the woods, he could hardly believe his eyes. The woods were filled with animals of all shapes and sizes, dressed in their finest and enjoying the festivities. The frog made his way through the crowd, looking for the singing competition. Suddenly, he heard a loud croak from the top of a nearby tree. Looking up, he saw the fly perched atop the tree, announcing the start of the singing competition. The frog was so excited he croaked out a song and leapt onto the stage. The other animals cheered him on and began to sway to the music of the frog's song. The frog's voice was so beautiful and powerful that the other animals began to cheer even louder. The frog sang and danced with such enthusiasm that the other animals couldn't help but join in. The frog sang until he was so out of breath he could barely croak out another note. At the end of his song, the crowd erupted in applause and the frog was crowned the Swamp King. The frog was so happy he could jump up and down. He was granted his one wish and he asked that all of the animals in the woods be given a musical instrument so they could join him in singing and playing music. The animals were so delighted with the frog's wish that they began to sing and dance together in the forest after the festival was over. The frog was so happy with the music and companionship he had been given that he began to sing a special song of thanks. The animals listened to the frog's song with rapt attention, and when he finished, they all began to cheer and sing along with him. From that day forward, the frog was never lonely in the woods, for he was now surrounded by friends. He became known far and wide as the Singing Frog, and each week he would lead all of the animals in singing and playing music. The swamp dwellers learned many songs from the frog and were so taken with his enthusiasm that they began to throw their own festivals in his honor. The Singing Frog remained in the swamp, happy and surrounded by friends. His singing voice was so strong that it could be heard throughout the kingdom, even when the swamp festival came to an end. The frog was so content and grateful that he sang a special song, thanking the animals of the woods for having welcomed him in and made him feel so loved. The animals of the woods joined in and sang with the frog, creating music that echoed throughout the kingdom. The Singing Frog was happy and fulfilled, for the animals of the wood, who once kept their distance, had welcomed him with open arms. He would never again be an outsider, and his songs would continue to bring joy and happiness to the kingdom for many years to come.
The Singing Whale and the Ocean Festival. Once upon a time, on a little island far away from the mainland, there lived a friendly mermaid called Mariana. Although Mariana lived in the deep ocean, she had a bright and bubbly personality that she shared with every creature from the waters she loved. She was always saying hello, hello, and greeting every fish, dolphin, and turtle that she saw, always with a huge smile. Mariana adored the ocean, and she wanted nothing more than to share her love of the sea and all its wonders with anyone who would listen. She especially loved to admire the beauty of the whale that traveled in and out of the island's waters. One day, Mariana heard a beautiful song coming from the depths of the sea. She followed the sound and was amazed when she saw a giant whale singing and playing a giant harp. Mariana had never seen anything like it before, and she was captivated by the whale's amazing voice. The whale noticed Mariana and began singing directly to her. He told her about how he and his family traveled across the ocean singing and playing music. He then asked Mariana if she would be interested in joining them in their travels, and Mariana immediately said yes. So, Mariana joined the whale, who she lovingly referred to as Song, and his family in their travels. Everywhere they went, Song and his family would serenade the townspeople with their delightful tunes. Mariana found great joy in teaching the townsfolk new songs from her homeland, and soon, the folk music from the little island began to spread throughout the waters. But then, one day, news reached Mariana and Song's family that something special was happening in the ocean. Every year, they said, the ocean's inhabitants gathered to celebrate the ocean's natural beauty, and the upcoming festivities included a giant concert in the central lagoon. Mariana and Song decided that they wanted to share their music with the other creatures at the festival, so they began working hard to create the perfect performance. Finally, after much practice and lots of hard work, they had mastered their set list and were ready to take the stage. The day of the concert finally arrived, and Mariana and Song, along with their family, made their way to the lagoon. As they began to sing, the sun began to shine brighter and all the fishes, dolphins, and turtles that had come to the festival began to dance together in rapture. Soon enough, all the creatures of the sea were singing and swaying along to the songs of Mariana and Song. It was a beautiful sight to see, and Mariana was filled with joy. She knew that the music was bringing everyone together and that it was making the ocean a better place for them all. In the end, the performance was a huge success, and everyone thanked Mariana and Song for putting on such a fun and wonderful show. After that, Story and Mariana continued to travel around singing and playing music. And wherever they went, the folk songs of the little island echoed through the waves, bringing smiles to all they encountered. The end.
The Smiling Squirrel's Superhero Soiree. Once upon a time, in a lush green forest, there lived a happy-go-lucky squirrel named Sammy. Sammy was known for his infectious smile and his love for throwing parties. He would often invite all his forest friends to his treehouse for a fun-filled evening. One day, Sammy had an idea. He wanted to throw a superhero-themed party and invite all his friends to dress up as their favorite superhero. He spent days preparing for the party, making decorations and planning games. Finally, the day of the party arrived, and all the animals in the forest were excited to attend. Sammy was dressed as his favorite superhero, Super Squirrel, and was ready to welcome his guests. As the party began, Sammy noticed that his friend, Timmy the turtle, was feeling left out. Timmy was the only one who had not dressed up as a superhero, and he felt sad about it. Sammy knew he had to do something to cheer up his friend. He quickly came up with a plan and announced that there was a new superhero in town, and his name was the Turtle Avenger. He gave Timmy a cape and a mask and declared him the newest member of the superhero squad. Timmy was overjoyed and felt like a true superhero. He joined in all the games and activities and even won the prize for the best superhero costume. The party was a huge success, and everyone had a great time. Sammy was happy to see his friends having fun, and Timmy was grateful to have such a caring friend. From that day on, Timmy was known as the Turtle Avenger, and Sammy continued to throw amazing parties that brought all the animals in the forest together. And so, the Smiling Squirrel's superhero soiree became a legendary event in the forest, and Sammy and his friends lived happily ever after.
The Snail's Snazzy Salsa Dance. Once upon a time, in a lush green garden, there lived a snail named Sammy. Sammy was a happy-go-lucky snail who loved to dance. He would often sway to the rhythm of the wind and tap his feet to the beat of the raindrops. One day, Sammy heard about a salsa dance competition that was going to take place in the garden. He was thrilled and decided to participate. But there was one problem: Sammy didn't know how to salsa dance. Determined to learn, Sammy went to his friends, the ladybugs, for help. The ladybugs were excellent dancers and were happy to teach Sammy the steps. They showed him how to move his body, shake his shell, and twirl around. Sammy practiced day and night, and soon he became a pro at salsa dancing. He was ready for the competition. On the day of the competition, Sammy arrived at the garden with his snazzy salsa moves. The other animals were amazed to see a snail dance so well. Sammy's salsa dance was a hit, and everyone cheered for him. In the end, Sammy won the competition and was awarded a shiny trophy. He was overjoyed and thanked his friends, the ladybugs, for teaching him how to dance. From that day on, Sammy became known as the snail with the snazzy salsa dance. He would often perform for his friends and family, and they would all dance along with him. And so, Sammy lived happily ever after, dancing his way through life and spreading joy wherever he went.
The Snazzy Sea Lion Scooter Scavenger Hunt. Once upon a time, in a beautiful seaside town, there lived a snazzy sea lion named Sammy. Sammy was known for his love of adventure and his trusty scooter, which he rode around town every day. One sunny morning, Sammy woke up with an idea. He wanted to organize a scooter scavenger hunt for all his friends in the town. He quickly got to work, creating a list of clues and hiding them all around the town. As soon as the other animals in the town heard about the scavenger hunt, they were eager to join in. There was a mischievous monkey named Max, a curious cat named Cleo, and a friendly dog named Duke. The rules of the scavenger hunt were simple. Each animal had to ride their scooter around town, following the clues to find the hidden treasure. The first animal to find all the clues and reach the treasure would be declared the winner. The animals set off on their scooters, racing around town and searching for the clues. Sammy was in the lead, but Max was close behind, using his monkey skills to climb trees and search high and low for the clues. Cleo was taking her time, carefully examining each clue and using her sharp senses to sniff out the treasure. Duke was having a blast, barking and wagging his tail as he rode his scooter around town. Finally, after a long and exciting search, Sammy was the first to find the treasure. It was a big box filled with delicious treats and toys for all the animals to share. The animals gathered around Sammy, congratulating him on his victory and thanking him for organizing such a fun and exciting scavenger hunt. They all agreed that it was the best day they had ever had in the seaside town. From that day on, Sammy became known as the snazzy sea lion who organized the best scooter scavenger hunts in town. And the other animals couldn't wait for the next adventure.
The Snickering Snail's Slippery Slide. Once upon a time, in a lush green garden, there lived a snail named Snickers. Snickers was a happy-go-lucky snail who loved to slide on the leaves and flowers in the garden. He was known for his slippery slide, which made all the other creatures in the garden laugh. One day, Snickers decided to challenge himself and slide down the biggest leaf in the garden. He climbed up the leaf and took a deep breath before sliding down. But as he slid down, he realized that the leaf was too slippery, and he couldn't control his speed. Snickers started to panic as he slid faster and faster down the leaf. He tried to slow down, but it was no use. He was going to crash into a tree at the bottom of the leaf. Just as Snickers was about to hit the tree, a group of ladybugs flew in and caught him in midair. They gently placed him on the ground and asked him what had happened. Snickers explained what had happened, and the ladybugs came up with a plan to help him. They suggested that Snickers should practice sliding on smaller leaves first before trying to slide on the big ones. Snickers took their advice and started practicing on smaller leaves. He gradually got better and better until he was ready to slide on the big leaf again. This time, Snickers was able to control his speed and slide down the leaf without any problems. He landed safely at the bottom, and all the creatures in the garden cheered for him. From that day on, Snickers became known as the snail who could slide on any leaf, big or small. And he continued to make everyone in the garden laugh with his slippery slide. The end.
The Snowy Forest. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a snowy forest. The forest was always covered in a thick blanket of snow, and the trees were tall and majestic. The animals that lived in the forest were used to the cold weather and had adapted to it over time. One day, a little fox named Frosty was playing in the snow when he heard a strange noise. He looked around and saw a small bird lying on the ground, shivering from the cold. Frosty knew he had to help the bird, so he picked her up gently and took her to his den. The bird's name was Snowy, and she was very grateful to Frosty for saving her life. She told him that she had been flying over the forest when a sudden gust of wind had blown her off course, and she had lost her way. Frosty promised to help Snowy find her way back home, and together they set out on a journey through the snowy forest. As they walked, they met many other animals who were also struggling in the cold weather. There was a family of rabbits who had lost their burrow, a group of squirrels who had run out of food, and a lonely deer who had lost his herd. Frosty and Snowy helped each of them, and soon they had a group of friends who were all traveling together. The journey was long and difficult, but Frosty and Snowy never gave up. They climbed over mountains, crossed frozen rivers, and braved fierce blizzards. Finally, after many days of traveling, they reached Snowy's home. She thanked Frosty for his help and said goodbye to her new friends. Frosty and his friends returned to the snowy forest, but they were no longer alone. They had each other, and they knew that they could always count on each other in times of need. From that day on, the snowy forest was a happier and more welcoming place, thanks to the kindness and bravery of Frosty and his friends.
The Snowy River. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there was a river that flowed through a snowy forest. The river was called the Snowy River, and it was known for its crystal-clear waters and the beautiful snowflakes that danced on its surface. The Snowy River was home to many creatures, including a family of otters who loved to play in the water, a group of beavers who built their homes along the riverbank, and a family of deer who came to drink from the river every day. One winter, the snowy river froze over, and the animals were forced to find new ways to survive. The otters and beavers dug tunnels under the ice to keep warm, while the deer searched for food in the snowy forest. One day, a little girl named Lily came to visit the snowy river. She had heard stories about the magical river and wanted to see it for herself. As she walked along the riverbank, she saw the otters and beavers peeking out from their tunnels and the deer nibbling on the frozen grass. Lily was amazed by the beauty of the snowy river, and she decided to help the animals survive the winter. She brought them food and blankets to keep them warm, and she even built a little shelter for the otters and beavers to stay in. The animals were grateful for Lily's kindness, and they soon became her friends. They showed her the secret places along the river where the snowflakes danced and the ice sparkled in the sunlight. As the winter passed, the snowy river began to thaw, and the animals emerged from their shelters. They were happy to see Lily again and thanked her for all she had done. Lily smiled and said, "I didn't do it alone. The snowy river and its creatures helped me too." From that day on, Lily visited the snowy river often, and she and the animals lived happily ever after. The snowy river remained a magical place, where the snowflakes danced and the animals played, and where kindness and friendship were always in abundance.
The Soaring Kite. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the hills, there lived a young boy named Aryan. Aryan was a curious and adventurous boy who loved to explore the world around him. One day, while wandering through the fields, he stumbled upon a beautiful kite lying on the ground. The kite was unlike any other kite Aryan had ever seen. It was made of the finest silk and had intricate designs woven into its fabric. Aryan picked up the kite and examined it closely. He noticed that it had a small note attached to it that read, "Fly me high, and I will take you on an adventure you will never forget." Aryan was intrigued by the note and decided to take the kite home with him. He spent the rest of the day repairing the kite and preparing it for flight. As the sun began to set, Aryan took the kite outside and launched it into the sky. The kite soared higher and higher, taking Aryan with it. They flew over the hills and valleys, past the clouds and into the stars. Aryan was amazed by the sights he saw and the adventures he had. As they flew, Aryan noticed that the kite was beginning to tire. He knew that they needed to land soon, but he didn't know where they were. Just then, the kite began to descend, and Aryan saw a small island in the distance. The kite landed softly on the island, and Aryan climbed down from its back. He explored the island and found that it was filled with exotic plants and animals. He spent the night on the island, sleeping under the stars. The next morning, Aryan woke up to find that the kite had disappeared. He searched the island but could not find it. He was sad to lose his new friend, but he knew that the adventure they had together would stay with him forever. From that day on, Aryan became known as the boy who flew with the soaring kite. He told his story to anyone who would listen, and it became a legend in the village. And though he never saw the kite again, he knew that it was out there somewhere, flying high and taking others on adventures they would never forget.
The Space Expedition to the Black Hole. Once upon a time, in a faraway galaxy, there lived a group of adventurous space explorers. They were called the Star Squad, and they were always on the lookout for new and exciting places to explore. One day, the Star Squad received a message from a distant planet. The message was from a group of aliens who lived near a black hole. The aliens had discovered something amazing, a secret passage that led straight into the black hole. The Star Squad was thrilled at the prospect of exploring the black hole. They quickly set off on their space expedition, with their trusty spaceship, the Star Cruiser. As they approached the black hole, the Star Squad could feel the pull of its immense gravity. But they were determined to explore the unknown depths of the black hole. As they entered the black hole, the Star Squad was amazed by what they saw. The inside of the black hole was like a giant maze, with twisting tunnels and strange creatures lurking around every corner. But the Star Squad was not afraid. They had each other, and they had their courage and determination. They pressed on, deeper and deeper into the black hole. Finally, they reached the heart of the black hole. There, they discovered a secret chamber, filled with treasures beyond their wildest dreams. The chamber was guarded by a fearsome creature, but the Star Squad was not deterred. They battled the creature with all their might, and emerged victorious. With their treasure in hand, the Star Squad made their way back to their spaceship. As they flew away from the black hole, they knew that they had accomplished something truly amazing. They had explored the unknown depths of the universe, and they had come out victorious. And so, the Star Squad returned to their home planet, hailed as heroes. They had completed the space expedition to the black hole, and they had done it with bravery, determination, and a sense of adventure that would never be forgotten.
The Space Explorer's Adventure. Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, there was a little space explorer named Max. Max loved to explore new planets and galaxies, and he had a trusty spaceship that he called the Starlight Express. One day, Max was flying through space when he saw a strange planet that he had never seen before. It was covered in bright purple and green plants, and there were strange creatures roaming around. Max knew he had to explore this planet, so he landed his spaceship and set out on foot. As he walked through the strange landscape, Max met a friendly alien named Zorg. Zorg was a small, furry creature with big, round eyes and a long tail. Zorg was fascinated by Max's spaceship and asked if he could come along on the adventure. Max and Zorg explored the planet together, discovering new plants and animals at every turn. They even found a hidden cave filled with glittering crystals and precious gems. But as they were exploring the cave, they heard a loud rumbling noise. Suddenly, the ground shook and Max and Zorg were thrown off their feet. They looked up to see a giant, fire-breathing dragon looming over them. The dragon roared and breathed fire, but Max and Zorg were quick on their feet. They ran back to the Starlight Express and took off into space. As they flew away from the planet, Max and Zorg looked back at the dragon and the strange planet. They knew they had just had the adventure of a lifetime, and they couldn't wait to explore more planets and galaxies together. From that day on, Max and Zorg were the best of friends, traveling through space and having amazing adventures together. And they always remembered the day they faced the fire-breathing dragon on the strange planet, and how they had worked together to overcome their fears and make it back to the safety of their spaceship.
The Space Odyssey. Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, there lived a group of space explorers. They were called the Space Squad, and they loved to travel to different planets and discover new things. One day, the Space Squad received a message from a planet they had never heard of before. The message said that the planet was in trouble and needed their help. The Space Squad knew they had to go and investigate. When they arrived on the planet, they found that it was being attacked by a group of evil aliens. The aliens had taken over the planet and were destroying everything in their path. The space squad knew they had to act fast. They quickly came up with a plan to defeat the aliens and save the planet. They gathered all the resources they could find and built a giant robot to fight the aliens. The robot was called the Space Odyssey, and it was the most powerful robot the space squad had ever built. The Space Odyssey was equipped with lasers, rockets, and all sorts of gadgets to help it defeat the aliens. The space squad climbed into the Space Odyssey and set off to battle the aliens. The fight was intense, but the Space Odyssey was able to defeat the aliens and save the planet. The people of the planet were so grateful to the space squad for saving them. They threw a big party in their honor and gave them a special medal for their bravery. From that day on, the Space Odyssey became a legend in the galaxy. The space squad continued to travel to different planets and discover new things, but they always remembered the adventure they had on the planet that needed their help. And so, the Space Odyssey became a symbol of hope and courage for all those who faced danger in the galaxy. The end.
The Spaghetti Slinging Spider. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a spider named Spaghetti. Spaghetti was not like any other spider you have ever seen. He was a spaghetti-slinging spider. Yes, you heard it right. Spaghetti could sling spaghetti from his web, and he loved to do it. Spaghetti lived in a cozy little corner of a garden, where he had spun his web. He was a happy spider, and he loved to entertain his friends with his spaghetti-slinging skills. His friends were a group of insects who lived in the garden. There was a ladybug named Lucy, a caterpillar named Carl, and a butterfly named Bella. One day, Spaghetti decided to invite his friends over for a spaghetti party. He wanted to show off his skills and make his friends happy. So, he started to sling spaghetti from his web. The spaghetti flew through the air, and his friends caught it with their mouths. They were amazed by Spaghetti's skills and enjoyed the spaghetti party. But, as they were having fun, a group of ants came along. They were not happy with the spaghetti party and wanted to ruin it. They started to attack Spaghetti's web and tried to destroy it. Spaghetti was scared and didn't know what to do. But, his friends came to his rescue. Lucy, the ladybug, flew around the ants and distracted them. Carl, the caterpillar, crawled over them and made them dizzy. Bella, the butterfly, fluttered her wings and blew them away. Spaghetti was amazed by his friends' bravery and thanked them for saving him. From that day on, Spaghetti and his friends had many more spaghetti parties. They enjoyed each other's company and had fun together. Spaghetti learned that having good friends is the most important thing in life, and he was grateful for his friends. And so, the spaghetti-slinging spider and his friends lived happily ever after, slinging spaghetti and having fun in the garden. The end.
The Speedy Puma and the Space Race. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a puma who was not like any other puma. His name was Patrick, and he was the fastest puma in town. Patrick lived in a small village at the edge of the jungle. He had a wonderful home filled with books, games, and toys. But Patrick was always eager to see what was beyond his village. Every day, he would stretch his long, luscious fur and run around the village, eager to make new discoveries. One day, Patrick heard a loud noise coming from above. He looked up into the sky and saw a strange object that was flying through the clouds. It was a space shuttle that was launched from the nearby space station. Patrick was so excited by the strange sight that he immediately decided he must investigate. Patrick rushed to the spaceport and asked the astronauts there about the strange vehicle. After speaking to them, Patrick realized it was a competition and that people from all over the world were taking part in a race to the moon. Seeing an opportunity, Patrick quickly made up his mind to join the competition. The next day, Patrick gathered some supplies and set off. He ran and ran, pushing himself to his limits, determined to be the first puma to reach the moon. Before long, Patrick was joined by a strange creature with wings. It was an ostrich. The speedy puma and the ostrich raced side by side, pushing each other to run faster and faster. Neither of them had ever done anything like this before, but they were determined to be the fastest. Finally, after days and days of running, they reached the moon. Patrick was ecstatic. He had finally made it. He was about to throw his hands in the air and celebrate his victory, when he realized the ostrich had made it, too. In disbelief, Patrick and the ostrich stared in amazement. Then, the impossible happened. The ostrich took off, flying even faster than before. Patrick thought he was going to lose, but his determination kicked in and he pushed himself, sprinting until he reached the finish line just in time to take first place. The cheering crowd erupted with cheers and congratulations for Patrick as he was crowned the winner. He had won the first ever interplanetary space race, and proved anything was possible if you give it all you've got. Patrick went back to his village feeling proud and accomplished. He had made the impossible possible and showed the world anything was achievable. Though he still loved going on new adventures, Patrick was content just playing his games and books at home from then on. He could always remember the time he won that unforgettable space race. The end.
The Speedy Snail and the Obstacle Race. Once upon a time, in a lively village, deep within the rolling hills of the countryside, there lived a tiny snail called Nibbles. Nibbles was small and slow, content to move at a snail's pace through life, never feeling the need to race in a hurry anywhere. He was happy to explore his small village and all its surroundings, the length of a single day often lasting 2 or 3 saunters. One day, Nibbles and his other snail pals were out on their usual adventure when a very strange sight caught their attention. A great big banner appeared, strung between trees and draped on fence posts, and it read, "The first annual snail race. All snail varieties invited to compete. First prize, 500 quills." Nibbles' curious nature was piqued, and he found himself quickly drawn in. Most of his snail friends were feeling much too scared to participate, however, especially when they saw the challenge that was presented, a winding obstacle course with treacherous traps set before the finish line. Nevertheless, Nibbles was undeterred. He found the challenge far too irresistible, and with a silent snag of his little antennae, Nibbles began to gather his supplies. A backpack filled with supplies and a determination to win, Nibbles was ready to take on the challenge. The day of the race quickly arrived, and as the sun shone high in the sky, Nibbles began his journey. His tiny feet were not designed for speed, and so it took him a while to cross the earthen racetrack. The many hurdles and traps were a challenge to his courage, his unyielding confidence wavering now and then. But Nibbles pressed onward, quickly developing a strategy for crossing the obstacles. He used his heightened sense of smell to navigate through tight spaces, and his sticky secretions to cling to objects scattered before him. His strategy resulted in Nibbles mastering the course, and he even managed to take the lead. The other snails were taken aback, wondering who this speedy little snail could be.
But Nibbles wasn't stopping. In a frenzy of triumph, he quickly reached the finish line, a winner by a landslide. The crowd was in awe, amazed that a snail could complete such a feat. And so Nibbles won the first prize of 500 quills, a heroic win for a tiny snail. This win was a monumental experience for Nibbles. The recognition and admiration he received for his achievement filled him with a feeling of pride and assurance that he could overcome any obstacle. This experience even enabled Nibbles to set a far grander goal for himself, to take the next snail race by storm. He wanted to be the first and best among the snails, undisputed champion of the snail race. With this goal set and the 500 quills in hand, Nibbles slowly began making preparations for the next race. And so the story of Nibbles, the speedy snail, was one filled with laughter and joy. He taught the other snails that no matter the size or speed, obstacles can be overcome and goals achieved with perseverance and tenacity. Nibbles is still known today as the champ of the snail race, his adventures inspiring any size and species of snail to break free of their shells and take on the world.
The spirited sea turtle's strength swim. Once upon a time, in a beautiful ocean, there lived a spirited sea turtle named Tilly. Tilly was unlike any other sea turtle in the ocean. She had a special gift that made her unique. Tilly had the ability to swim faster and stronger than any other sea turtle in the ocean. One day, Tilly was swimming with her friends when they came across a school of fish. Tilly's friends were excited to catch some fish for dinner, but Tilly noticed that one of the fish was struggling to swim. Tilly knew that the fish needed help, so she swam over to him. The fish explained that he had a disability that made it hard for him to swim. Tilly didn't know what a disability was, but she knew that she wanted to help her new friend. Tilly decided to teach the fish how to swim stronger and faster, just like she could. Tilly and the fish practiced swimming every day. Tilly showed the fish how to use his fins to swim faster and how to hold his breath for longer periods of time. The fish was amazed at how much he was improving. One day, Tilly and the fish were swimming together when they came across a group of sharks. The sharks were hungry and looking for their next meal. Tilly knew that they needed to swim away quickly, but the fish was struggling to keep up. Tilly didn't want to leave her friend behind, so she used all of her strength to push the fish forward. Tilly's strength and determination helped the fish swim faster than he ever had before. They were able to escape the sharks and make it back to their home safely. From that day on, Tilly and the fish were the best of friends. Tilly had shown the fish that even though he had a difference, he was still capable of doing amazing things. Tilly's strength and determination had helped her friend overcome his challenges and become a stronger swimmer. The end.
The Spooky House. Once upon a time, in a small town, there was a spooky house that everyone was afraid of. It was an old, abandoned mansion that had been empty for years. The house was surrounded by a tall fence, and the gate was always locked. No one knew who owned the house or why it had been left to rot. One day, a group of children decided to explore the spooky house. They had heard stories about the ghosts that haunted the place, but they were brave and curious. They climbed over the fence and made their way to the front door. The door creaked open, and the children stepped inside. The house was dark and musty, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. The children shivered with fear, but they pressed on. They explored the dusty rooms, searching for clues about the house's past. As they walked through the house, they heard strange noises. They heard footsteps on the stairs, and doors creaking open and shut. They were sure that they were not alone in the house. Suddenly, they heard a loud scream. It was coming from the basement. The children ran down the stairs, and there they saw a ghostly figure. It was a woman in a long white dress, with long black hair. She was crying and moaning, and the children were terrified. But then, they realized that the woman was not a ghost at all. She was a real person, and she was trapped in the basement. The children helped her escape, and they learned that she was the owner of the house. She had been kidnapped and held captive by a group of criminals who had been using the house as a hideout. The children were hailed as heroes, and the spooky house was no longer a place of fear. It was a place of adventure and bravery. The children had solved the mystery of the spooky house, and they had saved a life in the process. From that day on, the house was known as the House of Heroes, and the children were proud of their bravery and courage.
The Spooky Spider. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the heart of a dense forest, there lived a spooky spider named Arachne. Arachne was not like any other spider in the village. She was big, black, and had 8 long legs that made her look scary. The other spiders in the village were afraid of her and avoided her at all costs. Arachne was lonely and sad. She longed for a friend who would accept her for who she was. One day, while she was spinning her web, she heard a faint voice calling out to her. She looked around but saw no one. She heard the voice again, and this time, it was louder. She followed the sound and found a tiny caterpillar stuck in a spider's web. Arachne felt sorry for the caterpillar and decided to help him. She carefully untangled him from the web and set him free. The caterpillar was grateful and thanked Arachne for saving his life. He introduced himself as Carlos and asked Arachne if she would like to be his friend. Arachne was overjoyed and accepted Carlos's offer. They spent their days exploring the forest, playing games, and having fun. Arachne was no longer lonely, and Carlos had found a friend who accepted him for who he was. One day, while they were playing hide and seek, they stumbled upon a group of spiders who were in trouble. Their village was under attack by a group of ants who wanted to take over their land. Arachne and Carlos knew they had to help their friends. Arachne used her web-spinning skills to create a trap for the ants, while Carlos used his speed to distract them. Together, they were able to save the village from the ants and become heroes in the eyes of the other spiders. From that day on, Arachne was no longer known as the spooky spider. She was known as the brave spider who saved the village. She had found a friend who accepted her for who she was, and together, they had made a difference in the lives of others. The end.
The Spooky Tree. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the heart of a dense forest, there stood a spooky tree. The tree was tall and gnarled, with twisted branches that seemed to reach out and grab at anyone who dared to come too close. The villagers had always been afraid of the spooky tree, and they warned their children never to go near it. But one day, a brave little girl named Lily decided to explore the forest and see the spooky tree for herself. As she approached the tree, she felt a chill run down her spine. But she didn't let her fear stop her. She walked right up to the trunk of the tree and placed her hand on its rough bark. Suddenly, she heard a voice whispering in her ear. "Who are you?" it asked. Lily looked around, but there was no one there. She realized that the voice must be coming from the spooky tree itself. "I'm Lily," she said. "Who are you?" "I am the spooky tree," the voice replied. "And I have been here for many years, watching over this forest." Lily was amazed. She had never heard of a talking tree before. "Why are you so spooky?" she asked. The tree sighed. "I suppose it's because of my appearance," it said. "But also because I have seen many things in my time here. Some of them have been quite frightening." Lily listened intently as the tree told her stories of the forest and the creatures that lived there. She learned about the wise old owl who lived in a nearby tree, and the mischievous squirrels who loved to play pranks on the other animals. As the sun began to set, Lily realized that it was time to go home. She said goodbye to the spooky tree and promised to come back and visit soon. From that day on, Lily visited the spooky tree every chance she got. She learned more and more about the forest and its inhabitants, and she even made friends with some of the animals. And although the villagers still feared the spooky tree, Lily knew that it was really just a kind and wise old friend who had been watching over the forest for many years.
The Spy Rat's mission in the City of Secrets. Once upon a time, in a quaint town deep in the countryside, there lived a group of 3 friends, Marvin, Mabel, and Mo. They were all rats, rodent secret agents for the town, and one day their boss, the mayor of their town, came to them with a special assignment. "Greetings, friends," the old rat said. "I have a mission that needs your help. It's a very important one, and we need your unique skills." He continued, telling them that the sovereign kingdom of Baki had suffered a great injustice. The citizens were being held captive in the mysterious City of Secrets, and they needed someone brave enough to go in and find out what was going on. The 3 rats accepted the mission. They began making their preparations, gathering all the supplies they would need for the journey ahead. With a cart full of nuts, bolts, and other materials, they set off through the forest and down the winding roads that would take them to their destination. As they traveled, the rats passed through many different exotic lands, and each time they stopped to rest, they would hear whispers of the City of Secrets, all of them full of mystery and dread, as none of the local creatures dared to enter its gates. The rats finally arrived at the edge of the City of Secrets. They stared in awe at the towering stone walls that surrounded the town. "We're going to have to be extra careful," Marvin said. "There are sure to be all sorts of traps and tricks." The trio snuck into the city, using their small size and mastery of disguise to stay hidden. As they explored, they noticed that the city had become run down, the streets were empty and the shops were all closed. Finally, they stumbled upon the city's prison. As they crept closer, the rats heard strange noises coming from inside. Peeking through the window, they saw that the prisoners had all been transformed into animals, dogs, cats, rabbits, and more. The rats knew that this was their chance to free the poor creatures, and so they set to work. They quickly devised a plan, using their engineering skills to construct a contraption that would release the locks on the cell doors. They also used their artistic talents to create disguises that allowed them to blend in with the other animals. Then they went in and began to free the prisoners one by one. The rats' brave mission was soon successful, and the grateful citizens of Baki welcomed them back with open arms. With the help of their newfound allies, they were able to restore their beloved kingdom, and the locals even built a grand statue in honor of the 3 heroic rodents. Back home, the rats were hailed as heroes, and their legacy was remembered for generations to come. And so, the spy rats taught us all a wonderful lesson, that even the smallest of creatures can do extraordinary things with courage and perseverance.
The Starfish Adventure in the Pearl Kingdom. Once upon a time, there was a little starfish named Charles who lived in a small pearl kingdom in the middle of the vast ocean. He lived with his family deep in the corals of the kingdom. Every day Charles would explore with his parents and find amazing new things. When he wasn't with his parents, Charles also liked to go off on his own adventures and explore on his own. One day Charles was floating off alone and he came across a mysterious pearl deep in the ocean. He examined it closely and discovered that it had a kingdom inside the pearl. Charles eagerly explored the Pearl Kingdom, swimming through the bright and shimmering hallways, and it was like nothing he had ever seen before. He was amazed by the different kinds of creatures there were. He met giant starfish, talking clams, and even a tiny mermaid. Every one of them welcomed Charles with open arms, like he was a long-lost friend. Charles and the creatures of the Pearl Kingdom decided to have an adventure. They swam off to a nearby island to find some treasure. Charles was so excited to find something special. Charles and the creatures scoured the island looking for treasure. They dug in the sand, explored caves, and even climbed the highest mountains, but still nothing. The creatures started to get discouraged, but Charles didn't give up. Just as the creatures were about to go back home, Charles found something extraordinary, a huge pearl. The creatures gathered around to investigate the pearl, and discovered that it was actually an entrance to a secret cave. They dived inside the pearl and were astounded by what they found. It was an enormous undersea palace. The walls were encrusted with jewels and the rooms sparkled with an array of colors. Who needed treasure when they could explore an entire palace? They explored every corner of the palace and Charles found something remarkable, an old map. At the bottom of the map was the image of a giant star. He knew this had to be the entrance to something amazing. He quickly shared his discovery with the others, and they decided to follow the map to the star. After a few hours of swimming, Charles and his new friends arrived at the star and saw something astounding, a jewelry box floating in the middle of the ocean. The creatures raced over to the floating jewelry box. When they got close, they realized that it wasn't just a jewelry box. It was an enormous starfish wearing a headpiece made from the finest pearls. The creatures were so amazed by the stunningly beautiful creature. Charles knew at once that it was the ruler of the Pearl Kingdom. He bowed to show respect, and the starfish spoke. "Welcome, citizens of the Pearl Kingdom. I am the Starfish Queen. I am starting a special mission, and I'm looking for a few brave souls to help me. Will you accept my challenge?" The creatures were silent. They were scared and unsure what to do, but Charles had to step up and take the Queen's challenge. He bravely said yes, and the Starfish Queen smiled. The Queen explained that she needed help in restoring the Pearl Kingdom to its former glory. She needed help in the rebuilding effort and she wanted Charles and the others to be her ambassadors. The Queen asked them to travel around the kingdom and seek out the pieces of the kingdom's past that needed to be restored. Charles and the creatures of the Pearl Kingdom set off on their journey to discover the pieces of the kingdom's past. They used the map in the palace as their guide and swam through the waters of the Pearl Kingdom. After a few days, Charles and his friends found some amazing things. They found old statues, pieces of ancient art, and stories from the kingdom's past. They gathered all these pieces and returned them to the Pearl Kingdom. When they finished their mission, Charles and his newfound friends returned to the Starfish Queen with the pieces of the Pearl Kingdom's history. They presented them to the Queen and she was so very thankful. The Queen rewarded Charles and his companions with a special pearl necklace and the title of Very Special Friends of the Starfish Queen.
she declared a special holiday in the Pearl Kingdom in their honor. The Starfish Queen thanked Charles and the creatures of the Pearl Kingdom for their bravery and dedication. The Pearl Kingdom was restored to its former glory and Charles and his friends lived happily ever after. The end.
The story of the polka-dotted elephant and the rainbow circus. Once upon a time, there was a very special elephant named Elmo. Elmo was different from all the other elephants in the jungle because he was covered in polka dots. Elmo was always looking for something to do, but he was never able to find anything that interested him. That is, until one day, when he stumbled upon a mysterious circus. It was a circus unlike any other, because it was filled with all sorts of colorful animals and performers. Elmo was so excited that he decided to join the circus. He quickly became the star of the show, and everyone loved him. He was so popular that he even got his own special act, the polka-dotted elephant and the rainbow circus. Elmo and the other performers put on a show that was filled with laughter and fun. They juggled, they danced, and they even flew through the air on trapezes. Everyone was having a great time, and Elmo was the happiest elephant in the world. But then one day, something strange happened. The circus suddenly disappeared, leaving Elmo all alone. He was so sad that he decided to go on a journey to find the circus and his friends. He searched high and low, but he couldn't find them. He was about to give up when he stumbled upon a magical rainbow. He followed the rainbow and it led him right back to the circus. Elmo was so happy to be reunited with his friends, and they all celebrated with a big party. From then on, Elmo and the Rainbow Circus put on the best show in the world. The end.
The Super Space Squad. Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, there was a group of friends who loved to explore the universe. They called themselves the Super Space Squad. There was Captain Cosmo, the brave and fearless leader of the group. He was always ready for any adventure that came their way. Then there was Luna, the smart and curious scientist who loved to discover new things. Next was Astro, the strong and loyal robot who was always there to help his friends. And finally, there was Zephyr, the mischievous alien who loved to play pranks on his friends. One day, the Super Space Squad received a distress signal from a planet in trouble. They quickly set off to investigate and found that the planet was being attacked by an evil space monster. The monster was destroying everything in its path and the planet's inhabitants were in danger. The Super Space Squad knew they had to act fast to save the planet. Captain Cosmo came up with a plan and the team worked together to defeat the monster. Luna used her scientific knowledge to create a special weapon, Astro used his strength to hold the monster down, and Zephyr distracted the monster with his silly pranks. In the end, the Super Space Squad saved the planet and its inhabitants. The people of the planet were so grateful that they made the Super Space Squad honorary citizens and threw a big celebration in their honor. From that day on, the Super Space Squad continued to explore the universe and help those in need. They knew that as long as they worked together, they could overcome any challenge that came their way. And so, their adventures continued, with new friends and new challenges waiting for them in the vast expanse of space.
The Super Spy Squad. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a group of animals who were the best of friends. They were a team of spies who went by the name of the Super Spy Squad. The team consisted of a brave lion named Leo, a clever fox named Felix, a speedy cheetah named Celia, and a wise owl named Olivia. One day, the Super Spy Squad received a mission from their boss, the wise old tortoise, Mr. T. He told them that the evil Dr. Claw had stolen a precious diamond from the museum and they needed to retrieve it before it was too late. The Super Spy Squad set out on their mission, determined to catch Dr. Claw and retrieve the diamond. They followed his trail to a dark and spooky forest, where they encountered many obstacles along the way. They had to cross a river, climb a steep mountain, and sneak past a group of angry bees. Finally, they reached Dr. Claw's secret hideout, a dark and eerie castle. They snuck inside and found the diamond, but Dr. Claw was waiting for them. He had set a trap, and the Super Spy Squad found themselves surrounded by his henchmen. But the Super Spy Squad didn't give up. They used their skills and teamwork to defeat Dr. Claw and his henchmen. They retrieved the diamond and returned it to the museum, where they were hailed as heroes. From that day on, the Super Spy Squad continued to go on exciting missions, always ready to save the day and protect their friends. They were the best of friends and the bravest of spies, and they knew that as long as they had each other, they could overcome any obstacle.
The Superhero Squad. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a group of superheroes known as the Superhero Squad. They were a team of brave and powerful heroes who worked together to protect their city from evil villains. The Superhero Squad was made up of 5 members: Captain Courage, the fearless leader who could fly and had super strength; Lightning Lass, who could control lightning and run at lightning speed; Aquaman, who could breathe underwater and control the waves; Fireball, who could shoot fire from his hands and had super speed; and finally, the youngest member of the team, Bubble Girl, who could create bubbles that could trap villains. One day, the city was under attack by the evil Dr. Doom. He had created a giant robot that was destroying everything in its path. The Superhero Squad knew they had to act fast to save the city. Captain Courage led the team into battle, with Lightning Lass and Fireball attacking the robot with their lightning and fire powers. Aquaman used his powers to create a tidal wave that knocked the robot off balance, while Bubble Girl trapped it in a giant bubble. But Dr. Doom wasn't giving up that easily. He had one more trick up his sleeve. He had created a giant laser that was aimed at the city. The Superhero Squad knew they had to act fast to stop it. Captain Courage came up with a plan. He flew up to the laser and used his super strength to redirect it away from the city. Lightning Lass and Fireball used their powers to destroy the laser, while Aquaman created a shield to protect them from the explosion. In the end, the Superhero Squad saved the city from destruction and defeated Dr. Doom. The people of the city cheered and thanked the heroes for their bravery. From that day on, the Superhero Squad became even more famous and loved by the people. They continued to protect the city from evil villains and always worked together as a team. And so, the adventures of the Superhero Squad continued, with new challenges and villains to face. But they knew that as long as they worked together, they could overcome anything.
The Surfing Otter and the Crystal Wave. Once upon a time, far deep in the Pacific Ocean, there lived an adventurous sea otter named Bob. Bob was an expert surfer who loved nothing more than riding on the crystal blue waves on his trusty surfboard. Whenever the waves were crashing and the seas were calm, Bob could usually be found at the beach with his best friend, a seagull named Mike. One day, while out surfing, Bob and Mike came across a mysterious crystal wave unlike anything they had ever seen before. Even with Bob's expert surfing skills, they were unable to catch the wave, no matter how hard they tried. Bob shrugged and said, "That's weird, the wave just isn't normal." I never seen a wave like this before." Mike squawked and said, "Me neither. But it sure looks like fun. Let's try again." So Bob and Mike paddled out further and gave the crystal wave another try. This time, as they rode on the wave, they noticed that the water took on a magical hue. It was a mix of blue, purple and pink which sparkled and glowed. Mike was awestruck as he screamed out, "Whoa! This is incredible!" As they continued riding the wave, Bob and Mike noticed a group of brightly colored creatures following them along the way. The creatures were small, no bigger than a fish, and they seemed to be made of the same crystal-like colors Bob and Mike had seen in the wave. The creatures were incredibly curious and they seemed to be captivated by Bob and Mike. The creatures followed them wherever they went, flying in and out of the wave as if they had heard a secret call. Eventually, Bob and Mike came to a large reef, filled with corals, clams and a wide variety of other sea creatures. The reef was stunning, with a giant crystal formation jutting from the surface of the water. Mike said, "What is that? It looks so beautiful." Bob smiled and said, "That's our secret wave. We made it together with these little creatures who have been following us all along." Bob and Mike quickly understood that these creatures were the source of the mysterious wave and the colorful light. And so, with the help of the little creatures, they spent the rest of the day learning how to master the crystal wave. Together they laughed and cheered each other on as they took turns trying to stay on the wave and keep it under control. Even when they made a mistake and ended up in the water, they still had plenty of fun. Eventually, with lots of practice and a little help, Bob and Mike became experts in riding the crystal wave. They also came to realize that these little creatures were a special kind of sea creature called aquamermaids. They had given Bob and Mike the chance to experience a wave so special and powerful that it could only be ridden if you appeared brave and trustworthy in their eyes. And so, from then on, Bob and Mike shared this amazing experience with their surfing friends whenever they could, and the crystal wave became their favorite spot to visit in the sea. The end.
The Swan Skater and the Competition on the Frozen Lake. Once upon a time, there was a small town located in the country surrounded by vast forests and blue mountains. The town's inhabitants were mostly animals, with a few humans here and there. One of the inhabitants was a young swan named Lily. Lily was different from her friends in the town, in that she loved to spend time on the frozen lake, skating on it, and admiring the landscape around her. She was so full of life and vigor that she soon became known as the Swan Skater around the town. One winter, a rumor started to spread throughout the town. The lake would soon be hosting a skating competition, and the winner would be given a grand prize of an emerald necklace. Immediately, Lily was excited and told all of her friends about the competition. Her friends laughed at her, though, and said that she was too small and inexperienced to compete. But Lily was determined to prove them wrong. Every day, she practiced hard on the lake, perfecting her skills and learning new techniques. Soon enough, she was preparing for the competition, and she was ready for it. On the day of the competition, the townspeople gathered in front of the lake to watch the event. Everyone was amazed at how graceful Lily was on her skates, effortlessly twirling and spinning and jumping. When the judges awarded her first place, the townspeople eagerly cheered her on. Lily was presented with a beautiful emerald necklace as a token of appreciation. She was so happy and excited that she wanted to share her success with her friends. She invited all of them to a celebration, and they all happily obliged. At the celebration, everyone had a great time, eating and talking and, most importantly, skating on the lake. Lily showed off her amazing skating skills, her friends joining her in the fun. After a while, the competition for the best skater started. Lily, of course, won again and was presented with another emerald necklace as a token of appreciation. Her friends, who had teased her when she first talked about the competition, were so impressed with her skill that they cheered even louder for her. The swan skater and her friends continued to have regular celebrations and ice skating competitions every day on the lake. Even though the temperatures had dropped really low, Lily never stopped having a great time. Every winter day on the frozen lake was wonderful, and Lily's story was known by everyone. This is the story of the swan skater and the competition on the frozen lake. She served as an example to all of the townspeople that never stop dreaming, no matter how small your dream may be. She showed them that with a little bit of passion and enthusiasm, anything can be achieved.
The Swordfish Knight and the Ocean's Hidden Kingdom. Once upon a time, there lived a brave and noble knight named Sir Swordfish. He lived in a small fishing village on the edge of the ocean, and he was known far and wide for his courage and strength. One day, Sir Swordfish was out fishing when he noticed something strange in the water. He saw a bright light coming from the depths of the ocean, and he decided to investigate. Sir Swordfish dove into the depths of the ocean and soon found himself in a beautiful and mysterious kingdom. He was amazed by the sights and sounds of the kingdom, and he soon realized that he had stumbled upon the hidden kingdom of the ocean. The kingdom was ruled by a wise and kind king, who welcomed Sir Swordfish with open arms. The king told Sir Swordfish that he was the chosen one to protect the kingdom from any danger that may come its way. Sir Swordfish accepted the challenge and vowed to protect the kingdom with his sword and shield. He soon became known as the Swordfish Knight, and he was beloved by all the citizens of the kingdom. The Swordfish Knight and the citizens of the kingdom worked together to protect the kingdom from any danger that may come their way. They fought off sea monsters, pirates, and other threats, and the kingdom flourished under the Swordfish Knight's protection. The Swordfish Knight and the citizens of the kingdom lived happily ever after, and the kingdom remained hidden from the rest of the world. The end.
The Tale of the Brave Bunny and the Moonlit Meadow. Once upon a time, there was a brave little bunny named Flopsy who lived in a meadow near the edge of a deep, dark forest. Flopsy was always curious and loved to explore, but his parents warned him to never go into the forest. One night, Flopsy was out in the meadow, looking up at the stars. Suddenly, he noticed a bright light coming from the forest. He was so curious that he decided to investigate. Flopsy hopped into the forest and followed the light until he came to a clearing. In the middle of the clearing was a beautiful meadow, lit up by the full moon. Flopsy was amazed by the sight and decided to explore. He hopped around the meadow, admiring the flowers and the trees. Suddenly, he heard a noise coming from the other side of the meadow. He hopped closer and saw a group of foxes playing in the moonlight. Flopsy was scared, but he was also brave. He decided to approach the foxes and introduce himself. The foxes were surprised to see a bunny in the meadow, but they welcomed him with open arms. The foxes and Flopsy played together all night, chasing each other around the meadow and telling stories. When the sun began to rise, the foxes said goodbye and left Flopsy in the meadow. Flopsy hopped back home, feeling proud of himself for being so brave. From then on, he visited the meadow every night, and the foxes and Flopsy became the best of friends. The end.
The Tale of the Gentle Giant, a Shark's Adventure. Once upon a time, there lived a gentle giant named Shark. He was a kind and gentle creature, but he was also very curious. He wanted to explore the world and find out what was out there. One day, Shark decided to take a journey. He packed his bags and set off on a grand adventure. He traveled through the deep blue sea, discovering new creatures and places. One day, Shark came across a mysterious island. He decided to explore it and soon found himself in a strange and magical place. He met a friendly group of animals, including a wise old owl, a playful monkey, and a brave lion. The animals told Shark about a magical cave that was hidden deep within the island. They said that if he could find it, he would be rewarded with a great treasure. Shark was excited and set off to find the cave. He searched high and low, but he couldn't find it. He was about to give up when he heard a voice calling out to him. It was the voice of the gentle giant, a giant shark who lived in the cave. The gentle giant told Shark that he was the guardian of the cave and that he could help Shark find the treasure. Shark was overjoyed and followed the giant into the cave. Inside the cave, Shark found a beautiful pearl. The giant told Shark that this was the treasure he was looking for. Shark thanked the giant and returned to the island with the pearl. The animals were amazed at Shark's bravery and rewarded him with a special gift. From then on, Shark was known as the gentle giant and was respected by all the animals on the island. The end.
The Talking Animals of Narnia. Once upon a time, in a magical land called Narnia, there lived a group of animals who could talk. They were the most interesting and lovable creatures you could ever imagine. There was a wise old owl named Hooty, who loved to give advice to all the animals in the forest. There was a mischievous monkey named Bongo, who loved to play pranks on his friends. And there was a kind-hearted deer named Daisy, who always looked out for the other animals. One day, a new animal arrived in Narnia. It was a tiny mouse named Squeakers, who was lost and scared. The other animals welcomed Squeakers with open arms and promised to help him find his way home. As they journeyed through the forest, they encountered many obstacles. They had to cross a raging river, climb a steep mountain, and navigate through a dark and spooky cave. But with the help of their new friend Squeakers, they were able to overcome every challenge. Finally, they arrived at Squeakers' home, a cozy little mouse hole in the ground. Squeakers was overjoyed to be reunited with his family, and he thanked his new friends for their kindness and bravery. From that day on, the talking animals of Narnia became the best of friends. They went on many more adventures together, always looking out for each other and having fun along the way. And so, the moral of the story is that even the smallest and most unlikely of creatures can make a big impact in the world, as long as they have the love and support of their friends.
The Tenacious Tiger's Triumph. Once upon a time, in a lush jungle, there lived a tenacious tiger named Tilly. Tilly was unlike any other tiger in the jungle. She had a unique way of walking, and her stripes were not as bold as the other tigers. But Tilly didn't let that stop her from living her life to the fullest. One day, Tilly decided to explore the jungle. She came across a group of animals playing a game of tag. Tilly wanted to join in, but the other animals laughed and said, "You can't play with us. You're different." Tilly felt sad, but she didn't give up. She decided to find her own game to play. She stumbled upon a group of monkeys playing a game of hide and seek. Tilly asked if she could join, and the monkeys welcomed her with open arms. Tilly was a natural at the game. Her unique way of walking helped her hide in the most unexpected places. The monkeys were amazed and impressed by Tilly's skills. They asked her to play with them every day. Tilly felt happy and proud of herself. She realized that being different wasn't a bad thing. It made her special and unique. Tilly continued to play with the monkeys and even taught them some new hiding spots. One day, the other animals saw Tilly playing with the monkeys and realized how wrong they were to exclude her. They apologized and asked Tilly to join in their games. Tilly forgave them and showed them that being different was something to be celebrated. From that day on, Tilly was known as the tenacious tiger who triumphed over adversity. The end.
The Tickled Tiger's Trampoline Tournament. Once upon a time, in a lush jungle, there lived a ticklish tiger named Tilly. Tilly loved to play and have fun, but she was always teased by the other animals for being ticklish. One day, Tilly decided to show everyone that being ticklish was not a weakness but a strength. Tilly came up with an idea to host a trampoline tournament in the jungle. She invited all the animals to participate, and they all agreed to join in the fun. The tournament was set to take place in a week, and Tilly spent every day practicing her trampoline skills. On the day of the tournament, all the animals gathered around the trampoline, cheering and clapping for their friends. Tilly was nervous but excited to show everyone what she could do. The first round began, and Tilly was up against a strong and agile monkey named Max. Max bounced high on the trampoline, doing flips and twists in the air. Tilly watched in awe but didn't let it discourage her. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and bounced as high as she could. Suddenly, she felt a tickle in her belly, and she burst out laughing, losing her balance and falling off the trampoline. The other animals laughed at Tilly, but she didn't let it get to her. She got back up and tried again, determined to show everyone what she was made of. The second round began, and Tilly was up against a graceful gazelle named Grace. Grace bounced elegantly on the trampoline, doing twirls and spins in the air. Tilly watched in amazement but didn't let it distract her. She bounced higher and higher, feeling the tickle in her belly again. But this time, she didn't let it get the best of her. She laughed and bounced even higher, doing a somersault in the air and landing perfectly on the trampoline. The other animals cheered and clapped for Tilly, amazed at her skills and bravery. Tilly had won the tournament, and she proved to everyone that being ticklish was not a weakness but a strength. From that day on, Tilly was no longer teased for being ticklish but was admired for her courage and determination. And so, Tilly lived happily ever after, bouncing on her trampoline and having fun with her friends in the jungle. The end.
The Ticklish Toucan's Treasure Hunt. Once upon a time, in the lush rainforests of South America, there lived a toucan named Tiki. Tiki was known throughout the jungle for his ticklish feathers and his love for adventure. One day, Tiki woke up to find a mysterious note attached to his tree. It read, "Dear Tiki, I have hidden a treasure somewhere in the jungle. Follow the clues to find it. Good luck." Tiki was thrilled. He had always dreamed of going on a treasure hunt. He quickly gathered his friends, a mischievous monkey named Max and a curious sloth named Sammy, and set off on their adventure. The first clue led them to a giant tree with a hole in the trunk. Tiki stuck his beak inside and pulled out a map. The map showed a path through the jungle, marked with X's. The friends followed the map, jumping over streams and dodging vines, until they reached a clearing. In the center of the clearing was a pile of rocks with a message carved into them. It read, "To find the treasure, you must solve this riddle. I am always hungry, I must always be fed. The finger I touch will soon turn red. What am I?" Tiki, Max, and Sammy put their heads together and finally figured out the answer: fire. They followed the smoke from a nearby campfire and found the next clue. The clue led them to a waterfall, where they had to cross a rickety bridge made of vines. Tiki was nervous, but Max and Sammy cheered him on. They made it across safely and found the final clue. The clue led them to a cave, where they found a chest filled with gold coins and precious gems. Tiki was overjoyed. He had never seen so much treasure in his life. But then he noticed something strange. The treasure chest was empty except for a note that read, "The real treasure was the adventure you had with your friends." Tiki realized that the treasure hunt had been about more than just finding gold. It was about the memories he had made with Max and Sammy. They had worked together, solved riddles, and overcome obstacles. Tiki knew that he would never forget this adventure, and he was grateful for his friends. From that day on, Tiki, Max, and Sammy went on many more adventures together. They knew that the real treasure was the time they spent together, exploring the jungle and having fun. And Tiki's ticklish feathers never failed to make them all laugh.
The Ticklish Toucan's Treetop Tango. Once upon a time, in a lush and vibrant jungle, there lived a toucan named Tiki. Tiki was known throughout the jungle for his ticklish feathers and his love for dancing. He would often be found swaying and twirling in the treetops, entertaining all the animals below. One day, Tiki received an invitation to a grand dance party in the treetops. The party was being hosted by the king and queen of the jungle, and all the animals were invited. Tiki was thrilled and couldn't wait to show off his best dance moves. As the day of the party approached, Tiki practiced his tango and salsa moves in the treetops. He was determined to be the best dancer at the party. However, on the day of the party, Tiki woke up feeling under the weather. His feathers were droopy, and he had a tickle in his throat. Tiki was devastated. He didn't want to miss the party, but he didn't want to spread his illness to the other animals. Just as he was about to give up, his best friend, a mischievous monkey named Max, came to his rescue. Max had an idea. He suggested that Tiki wear a disguise to the party so no one would know he was sick. Tiki was hesitant at first, but Max convinced him that it was the only way he could still attend the party. So, Tiki put on a pair of sunglasses, a hat, and a fake mustache. He looked ridiculous, but he felt better already. As he made his way to the treetops, he couldn't help but giggle at his silly disguise. When Tiki arrived at the party, he was amazed at the sight. The treetops were decorated with colorful lights and streamers, and all the animals were dressed in their finest clothes. Tiki couldn't wait to dance. As the music started, Tiki began to tango with a beautiful macaw. He was having the time of his life, and no one suspected a thing. However, as the night went on, Tiki's disguise began to slip. His mustache fell off, and his sunglasses fogged up. Just as Tiki was about to give up and reveal his illness, Max came to the rescue again. Max put on a silly hat and joined Tiki on the dance floor. Together, they danced the treetop tango, and everyone joined in. The party was a huge success and Tiki was hailed as the best dancer in the jungle. He learned that sometimes it's not about being the best or the most perfect, but about having fun and enjoying the moment with the ones you love. From that day on, Tiki and Max were known as the treetop tango duo, and they danced their way through the jungle, spreading joy and laughter wherever they went.